Hello and welcome to the Best of GCS Today here on Channel 21. I'm Todd Higgins. On this Best of episode, we are featuring 3 of our favorite GCS Today interviews. Up first, we have our interview with Gaston County Schools Athletic Director Chad Duncan. Then we take a look back at our interview with Bessemer City High School teacher Diane Leazer, and we conclude this special Best of program with our interview featuring Belmont Central Elementary School Principal Phyllis Whitworth. We begin with Chad Duncan and our interview about athletics in Gaston County Schools. Joining me on GCS Today is Chad Duncan. He is the Director of Athletics for Gaston County Schools. Chad, thank you so much for being with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's begin with, what does an athletic director do? And talk about that at the school level and also in your role at the central level.
Okay. School level, they basically have to run it just like a business. They handle all the money that comes in, and obviously they also have to then help pay for any equipment needed and uniforms and all that. They also work with eligibility. They handle the transportation for their teams to travel. They work with all the game workers at the gates and to make sure everything is safe with officers. They clean, they mow, they spend a ton of time doing anything and everything for their athletic programs and schools.
And those athletic directors at the school level, they have to, like you said, they have to do any and everything to make sure that that game happens, that everything goes as planned, and there's a lot of work behind the scenes to make a football game or a basketball game or any game look great and take place in the way it should.
And they do a great job. They really do. They work hard. They ask questions if they need to. They're fantastic.
Now, in your role as the county athletic director, talk a little bit about what you do as the county athletic director.
Well, I'm there to support them, obviously, with all of our schools. I also attend all meetings that the state requires. I'll attend city county athletic director meetings, the high school athletic association meetings. I then host our high school and middle school ADs for different meetings. I'll have an all-county coaches meeting, so all of our coaches are on the same page with all of our stuff. I'll be on the phone constantly if public calls or anybody else calls, but I'm there in their support.
And you act as the liaison for the school district with the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, which governs high school sports.
That's correct, and I'm very fortunate to be on the North Carolina Athletic Directors Association Board of Directors. So we also have a separate special relationship with the High School Athletic Association, and it's a very good relationship.
Now, let's talk about your story. I know that you were the basketball coach at Ashbrook High School. How long did you coach, and what did you enjoy about coaching?
I started my sophomore year of college, actually, and I'm from Ohio, so I coached at the high school that I went to. And got into basketball, but I've also coached football, I've coached golf, and I've coached baseball. So I've been around a lot of them for a long period of time. Over 20 years is the time I spent coaching. What I enjoyed about coaching, and some people might not think this is something, but I enjoyed practice every day. I enjoyed seeing my players get better every day. I enjoyed getting to know my players and their families. I enjoyed those relationships, and obviously when it comes to games, I loved strategy. I loved making adjustments, and I believe that's what our coaches today also like.
So you've made the transition from the basketball court as a coach, and you're now at the county level as our athletic director. How are you still influencing students?
Well, obviously, when I work with the athletic directors and principals, but also the coaches at the schools, I am still very much involved. I also go to at least one game, sometimes 2 games every night. So they see me. They might not recognize me sometimes, but all the coaches and the athletic directors do recognize me, and they know I'm there for support, but also I'm checking things out. That's part of my job, to make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be.
And you make a good point there, because I do think that you are supportive in your role, supporting the schools and the players and the coaches and the others involved, because oftentimes they need that support. So you do a good job with that. Now, let's talk about athletics and how athletics are important to education. It's an important part of what we do.
Yes, definitely. And in fact, with the Athletic Directors Association, we always say that it's education-based athletics. That's what we're all about. We're about that academic mission that we serve to provide. We are an extension of the classroom, is what we feel. We also will say that we are the best dropout prevention available. And we help with discipline, because those kids want to behave so then they can participate later in the day. We fulfill basic needs. We help kids' attitudes. We help kids stay in shape and learn a regimen so then they can stay in shape later on in life. We also will have students, and this has been proven in several studies, that those who participate in athletics have higher grades and better attendance. So we obviously are all about that. And there's also been studies out there where participants have shown in the future that they vote more, they volunteer more, they speak well in public, and also that they watch the news more than some that don't.
I think that's very interesting, because some people get focused on sports and it's all about winning. It's all about winning, but there's so much more to it. And I like that you mentioned how it really is an extension of learning, and it's an extension of the classroom, because there are a lot of lessons that are taught on the field and on the court.
Exactly. All the lessons that are out there, I mean, they're numerous. Honesty, integrity, teamwork, respect, and there's many more, and obviously athletics, very strong in all of those.
Now, we talk about the lessons students learn. What are some of the lessons that you strived to teach your students, your players? Well,
respect was the biggest thing. And I would hope that all of my former players and students would also say that same thing, that you respect everyone involved. You respect the other team, you respect your own team, everybody involved, but you also respect the sport. There are certain things you just don't do, and just to learn that, work hard, and hopefully they saw me working hard, so I was a role model in that sense. Act right. You never know who's watching. That was one of those things too that I always said, because we always talked about possible college coaches in the stands or whomever's out there. It could be somebody's grandmother out there. You got to make sure that you're acting right. And always be prepared. If there's a way that you can prepare for something, do it, because you never know what situation you might be put in.
That's good advice. I like that. Act right, because you never know who's watching you. I like that piece of advice. Now, your parents. What do you want parents to know about athletics?
Well, let their kids have fun. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. Let their kids learn the life lessons that sports can teach them. And I talked about those a minute ago. But also to be very supportive of their kids. Not every kid can be a star player. Be supportive of their kids. Don't be overly critical. That seems to happen some more these days, where parents might put too much pressure on certain kids. And we also want kids to play as many sports as possible. We don't want them to just narrow it down to one focus. And there have been several studies out there that show, that's healthier for kids, is to be involved in as many activities as they can, not just one specific thing.
You make a great point there. It's not about winning all the time. It's not about being that star player. Not every child will be a star player, but every child involved in athletics can have fun and can enjoy the game, don't you think?
That's exactly what we want. Yep. Anybody who participates, I'm sure, in the past will tell you they have a great story to tell.
We're very proud of our athletics in Gaston County Schools. A great athletic program, great coaches, great athletic directors, people involved with the program, and great leadership from you to make sure that we continue our championship ways in Gaston County Schools. Chad Duncan, Athletic Director for Gaston County Schools, thank you for being with us today on GCS Today.
You are watching the best of GCS Today here on Channel 21. Now we have our interview with Diane Leazer, who retired recently after many years of dedicated service as a teacher at Bessemer City High School. Joining me on GCS Today is Diane Leazer from Bessemer City High School. So good to see you, and we're so glad that you're with us here today. All right, let's start off. Who influenced you to become a teacher?
Actually, teaching is my third choice. I have to be honest. I had originally wanted to become a minister. Fortunately, at the time period, they did not allow women in my church to do this. My best friend and I went down to the theological seminary. He was going to be a doctorate degree just like I was, but he was going to be the minister, and I could, if I was musically inclined, conduct the choir. That's not me. So I thought, okay, strike that one. My second choice actually was to become someone in the medical field that would help children overcome. I had rheumatic fever. The little girl in the bed beside me died in the middle of the night. At that time, there was only one doctor in the world that could handle, and luckily I got under Dr. Prince. So I wanted to go there. Unfortunately, my family is not wealthy, has never been. We are on the wrong side of the tracks. And so that one went out the window because there was just no way to get finances. Luckily for me, in the time period, they needed teachers so desperately that the opportunity was there. You could get borrowed money from the government. So I borrowed and went into the teaching field and found out that I could do both of the other jobs simultaneously while I was teaching my lessons.
And I bet that you will have people that would say, and I would be one of them, I'm glad you chose teaching as your profession. Glad it worked out that way.
Well, I'm glad it did too now. I reach more people, far more people. Like my minister once said, you reach people I'll never find. They have to come to your classroom. They won't come to my church. So I get to do that. And then when everyone has learned at school, vinegar is a miracle. If you have a sore throat, you will use vinegar water and it will cure it. So I have all these remedy type things that are old-fashioned that work. Garlic is the poor man's penicillin. So we do things like that in class. You know, they'll ask me, what should I do? I said, if you want to go the natural way, get some garlic. You know? So I get to do that at the same time. And I let them know, ice, you know, ice is wonderful. It'll stop pain in the heartbeat if you use it at the right time. So all of this has worked in for my benefit to do what I really wanted to do, and now I get to do it in the classroom.
You've been able to blend it.
Blend it in there. Yes, it is blended.
Now you're an English teacher. Do you have a favorite lesson that you like to teach?
You know, this was so hard when I first saw the question. In the 8th grade, my favorite was the Telltale Heart, and I'll explain. In the 12th grade, it is the Prodigal Son. In the 11th grade, it's the Raven. In the 8th grade, I go into character when I am presenting the story. And I scared a couple of 8th graders one day because I went so into the character that they literally, I was spitting just like I was insane and was acting the part. And one of the kids said, we thought you had gone. And so I said, no, I'm playing the role. I'm just playing the role. The Raven, I have taught that probably over 200 times. However, the morning of the presentation, I'm in rehearsing again to make sure I have the rhythm just right. And I love jerking open the door and looking out and saying, there's no one there. And the kids are looking, and they're looking to see if there's anyone there. Because as we're going through the different parts, I like to try to bring in something that makes it pertinent. So I'll jerk it. I said, there's no one there. You know, when we get to that. In fact, I'll enter the room and I am already doing the first stanza, and they're looking at me, oh gosh, she knows the whole thing. I said, yeah, I've taught it so long. Okay, you might want to get on the page so you can follow along. And we go from there. The Prodigal Son has become my favorite. for my 12th graders. I've had so many students over the years who have gone away to college, gone to other areas, and deviated from the norm of what is best for them. And then I let them know when the time comes, come home. We're waiting. We'll help you. We'll get you back on your feet. There is no turnaround that cannot be undone. So just when you get out there, turn around, come on home. We're waiting on you. And we help them out. And I've had students who have come back who have turned around, and they come and let me know.
Now, I like to think that you are a legend in Bessemer City. I don't know if you've ever been called that.
I think called a lot of things.
But I think the whole town of Bessemer City, everyone knows you. What does that mean to you?
It's so important. I don't want to ever do something that would be negative, that would take away the image of the teacher. As I tell the kids when they enter my classroom at the beginning of the year, first day, if you've been here very long and your family's been here, I have taught a sibling, a cousin, an aunt and uncle, your mama, your daddy, your grandpa or your grandma, and in 2 years, your great-grandma and your great-grandpa. They know. They already prepare the children. Just go in and do what she says. If you'll just do what she says, you're going to be all right. Keep your feet out of our way. She doesn't like to be tripped. Yeah. There is a way to code the paper. Just do it that way. Just do it. And it helps me in that respect, in that they come in and there are, and I had one, he cried 3 days before he entered my classroom. The parents came over after about a month and said, "What did you do to my boy?" And I thought, what have I done? I said, "Could you please explain?" "Well, he cried for 3 days, wouldn't come to your class, was going to drop out of school. We convinced him, give it a try. Now he gets up an hour early to prepare for your class." I said, "I don't have him the second period." "I know. He gets up before 7 o'clock so he won't be late to school, so he'll be in your class. What have you done?" I said, "Nothing that I know of." It was the lessons. He was getting so much from the lessons. He wanted to be there, and he was going to be a potential dropout. So the parents helped me, the grandparents helped me, everybody in the family rallies around, and I said, "Just go in and do it. She's going to get you through."
Now, I know that back in September when we had our Big 50 parade
Oh,
for
yes.
the anniversary
I love a parade.
Gaston County Schools, we invited you to be on our longtime employees float, and you were there. What did you enjoy most about that event?
Seeing the people, meeting the others on the float who have lasted for a long time, some I had not seen for years, but being on the float and seeing my former students out there who are adults who had brought their children and waving at them and just, it was fun. I love a parade. I have loved the parade since I was 18 months old. To me, the parade is the most wonderful thing. You've got music, you've got beautiful costumes, you've got colorful floats. To me, as I explained to my children when they're marching in the band, give it your all, because these people love to come out to parade. And I was thrilled to be a part of it, to ride on the float myself. I don't normally do that.
Well, I'm glad that you deserved to be there, and I'm glad that you said yes, and we had a good time.
We did.
On that day back in September
We
with
did.
the parade.
It was one of the best times of my life, to be honest, and I think I sent you a note about that.
You did. Now, you have taught many students over the years, and I think, if I'm correct, your career spans about 40 years, and you were in, has your career been entirely in Bessemer City?
No. I spent, first year I went to teach, you could not get a job in North Carolina, period. I had to go to South Carolina to get a year's experience to work my way back in. So my second year of teaching began at, Bessemer City Middle School was Bessemer City Junior High at that time. Mm-hmm. It went from Lincoln Junior High, actually is where I actually started. It went from Lincoln Junior High to Bessemer City Junior High to Bessemer City Middle. I have 3 schools on my resume. I never left the room. You just kept changing the name on me. So I have spent the vast majority of it here. Grown up with the children. As a young adult, you think you know it all, you don't. I'm still learning from my children, and will learn until the day I die, probably.
And now you're at Bessemer City High School, and and you talk about your students, what is there one lesson that they have taught you?
Give me a chance. Just give me a chance. I made a bad mistake as far as I'm concerned early on. One of my students wasn't doing well, and I developed an attitude towards him that you're lazy. I had no clue. My mother kept telling me, there's something about that kid. You're not seeing something. There's something about that kid. As I later found out, I would not have survived what that child was going through. And he later has become so famous, he wrote a song, Do You Believe Me Now? Because he kept telling me, I'm going to be something. I'm going to be someone. I'm going to make it. And I thought, well, what about making a little time to do a little homework? He had no place to do homework. To get a meal, he did what they now call dumpster diving because he was homeless. To shop, he went and he said, you tried on the stuff in the dumpster until something fit, and that became your wardrobe. He now has vast sums of money, of course, and he's very well known. But I misjudged. I didn't give him the chance at the time, and I've always hated that. We're best friends now. We are on Facebook several times a week. Mistake that a new teacher makes sometimes is you think you know, but you don't. And you find out later there is just so much more that's not being shown, that's being kept secret. And you need to just give them a chance.
Yep. I think that's good advice, not just for teachers, but for a lot of people. Good advice there. Now, what keeps you going? What keeps you in the classroom?
My children do. I have never acted my age and don't intend to start now. I stay young because of them. They are forevermore opening up my world. I discovered just last week, we had the Counselor's Appreciation Week. One of my students refused to put down Counselor Appreciation Week. And I looked at him and I said, well, what have you done? And I went over and I'm reading what the email is, and I said, concealers. You know, I never thought of it, but they do conceal a lot, don't they? You can go and tell him or her, whoever your counselor is, something, and they will conceal it for you, and you're free. And so today we laughed at grammar. Grammar usually is not considered a funny thing, but my students can make it fun. I told them, I said, you just made my world today because you made it fun today. They are forevermore looking at things differently. As I told them the other week, I had a student, they write essays for me, and sometimes the essays do not convey what they really mean. One of my children was trying to talk about the C-section that was done in Macbeth. Unfortunately, she didn't use the letter C or Caesarean, she put S-E-A. And I looked at that and I started laughing. I said, honey, that's an awfully big cut. Their way of looking at things, their way of showing me new aspects, it gets me up in the morning because I go to find out, what am I going to learn today? I've got my lesson I've got to teach them, but they're going to be teaching me something before the day's over with.
Well, I think me knowing you have taught a lot of lessons, and you have done a lot of encouraging, you've been compassionate, you've been caring about your students. You've shown a lot of encouragement to me. Even during my time as the newspaper editor there in Bessemer City and Cherryville, and now working for the school system, and I certainly appreciate it. And I bet you will find that a lot of the people that you've influenced and over the years, they appreciate that as well.
Well, they've made me proud. The vast majority. Now, I have a few that have made some very bad errors, and they're correcting their ways, but most of them made me so proud. They've gone on, the leaders of the world, actually, one of mine actually had lunch with Nelson Mandela. I was so envious. I could have, okay, I'm so proud for the child. Another one, on her birthday, the president of a foreign country sent her a blessing. She shared it with me so that I could read the blessing. I've got some that are out there, your EMTs, your policemen. invariably, when I'm involved in something, one of my children shows up to help me out. And they'll look at Miss Leazer, what's going on? and they're all over the place. I can't, even if I go down to Atlanta, Georgia, as happened with my sister, I was taking her to the Terrier warehouse. She's in the terriers. As we got out of the van, I took 3 steps across the parking lot, and suddenly someone screamed, "Hey, Miss Leazer." My sister looked and she says, "You can't go anywhere." I said, "No, I really can't." I went all the way out to California. I'm a zoo person. I'm into animals besides children, and the animals teach me how to handle the children oftentimes. But at the zoo, I was talking to some monkeys, and I communicate with the animals. And all of a sudden, I heard a voice behind me, "Miss Leazer, what are you doing here?" So they're all over the world. They really are. And they're making me proud in their own way. I don't look more highly on the one who had the Nigerian president write to her as the one who was doing the janitorial job, because that one is, to me, actually more important. Nothing's worse than going into a messy place. So regardless of where they are, they're doing what they are here to do, and they're making me proud as they do it. I will call on one of my plumber children in a heartbeat over one that's in the legislature. They're special. Each child has come to me in their own way and progressed specially.
Well, thank you for your influence, and thank you for everything that you've done in the Bessemer City Schools and at Bessemer City High School, and the things that you'll continue to do to influence children and guide them and to make them the best they can be. We really appreciate all that you do. Diane Leazer from Bessemer City High School, thank you for being with us here today on GCS Today.
When we come back, we have our interview with Belmont Central Elementary Principal Phyllis Whitworth. You are watching the best of GCS Today here on Channel 21.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Joining me on GCS Today is Phyllis Whitworth. She is the principal at Belmont Central Elementary School and also our Gaston County Principal of the Year for 2017-2018. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
Let's start by talking about Principal of the Year. What does that mean to you?
That means a wow moment. That means really, I think about my colleagues and I know how much they do, what a great job they do. And I just say to myself, I'm filled with gratitude that someone saw something in me that stood out. And so it makes me want to do a lot of self-reflecting. What is it that I'm doing that's so different, so innovative or creative? And really, I say there's not much that I'm doing any different than the others. Maybe it's my love, it's my passion, it's my drive, it's the way that I do my job. And I'm helping others, and that's been a good thing for me.
So you, in the role as Principal of the Year, do you see yourself being a role model for other principals?
I guess we get that title just by the nature of the job, but I really see myself more as a team player. I think we as principals in Gaston County Schools have an unwritten statement that we're here to help. I feel like I can call any of them for an idea or help, and I hope they feel the same about me.
What is your day like as a principal?
Well, my day is very busy, but it's exciting. So I start out in the morning making sure that I'm greeting family, children, and my staff. We get our morning announcements started, and then I want to be as visible as I can, going in and out of the classrooms and just trying to help wherever I'm needed.
And I know that a focus for you is what goes on in that classroom. that's a priority for you.
Definitely, because that's where it all happens. And we want to be sure that we're providing our students with the best quality education that we can. And I want to see a lot of engagement, a lot of teachers working with the students one-on-one, small groups, just trying to help them become better.
Now, we have celebrated the theme of homegrown in Gaston County Schools, our employees, our teachers being homegrown. You're one of our homegrown
Definitely.
employees. Graduate of Ashbrook High School, this is your home. What made you decide to dedicate your professional life, your career, to Gaston County Schools?
Well, Mr. Higgins, I'll tell you, you know the saying, it's a poor frog that won't praise its own pond. And I feel like me having been reared here, attended the schools here, that's a great legacy for me to give back to this community, who's the community that has done so much for me, and for all of the teachers that inspired me and helped me become a better person. And so if I can do that in turn, help these students to thrive and grow and to become productive citizens, I think that that's a good part of my life that I can say was well done.
You know, and I think it says a lot about you, and you set an example for your students. Learn here, grow up here, be here, come back here, and live here, belong to this community. I think that says a lot.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, as a principal, you have to have something that motivates you. What is that motivation that keeps you going?
I think it's the smiles that I see on the children's face each morning. I know our school, as you know, it starts with grade 2. And this year, I have a student, if I'm the one that gets him out of his car, open the car door for him, he says, beep, beep, beep. And my response is, wide load coming through. And he starts smiling, his dad starts smiling, and that just sets my day. Just being able to be around those children and see the smiles and the joy that they're experiencing.
How important, and does it make your job easier to know that you've made those connections? You've made those connections with students, your teachers, and your parents. How does that make it easier what you do?
Oh, yes, definitely. I tell you, my son said something to me when I won Principal of the Year. He says, Mama, not that you need to be validated, but it sure does feel good to be shown some love every now and then. And so that's what keeps me going, and the drive to know that we're interacting with one another and helping each other feel better each day.
Now, when you have students, let's say students at Belmont Central, they go on to middle school and then they go on to high school. You know, if you would see them 5 or 10 years down the road, what do you hope they would say about Miss Whitworth, my principal, when I was in elementary school? What would you want them to say about you?
I would want them to say that Mrs. Whitworth chose the right career, that she loved and enjoyed every minute and every day of what she did, and that she loved us and she was there for us. And something that they could remember that maybe I said, I did, or a smile that I gave to them that helped them along their way.
What motivated you to select a career in education? You've played every role, right?
Yes.
Teacher, assistant principal, all the way up to the principalship.
Yeah.
Why did you decide that? What motivated that?
Definitely. I think as a little girl, and like most people, I played school with my dolls in my bedroom. I played school with my neighborhood friends in the neighbor's basement. And Miss Sis Moore was the neighbor. She's the first person that I feel like believed that I could become what I wanted to become. She told my mom, one day she will become a teacher. Miss Sis didn't live long enough to see that happen, but I believe she knows that it happened. And then I just continued on through high school tutoring younger students, went on to college. I just knew this is what I wanted to do. And Gaston County Schools gave me that opportunity. I've been able to work at several schools, had a great experience at every school that I've been employed. And Mr. Higgins, some people may not know, I was a teacher assistant at Gardner Park from August until January, until I got my first teaching position.
So you really have played all the roles from the very beginning up to being the principal. Now, share with us, what is the secret to your success?
I think it's understanding yourself and knowing what your drive is and what do you want others to feel about you, and being a servant leader. What is it that I can do to help somebody else, and not really worrying about if I get credit, if I get praise, but I'm doing something that's going to be a lasting something. And I think that is one thing that keeps me going.
Well, you are a great role model for your colleagues. You're a great leader for your school, and we congratulate you on being the Principal of the Year for Gaston County for 2017-2018. It's a tremendous honor, well deserved, and we really appreciate you being with us here today on GCS Today.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
You've been watching the best of GCS Today here on Channel 21. We hope you have enjoyed our look back at some of our favorite interviews over the past several years. Stay tuned for new episodes of GCS Today coming your way this fall. For Channel 21, I'm Todd Higgins. Thanks so much for watching.